Before history is written, it's played. Before it's frozen in time, it's fought one shift at a time. Before it's etched in silver, it's carved in ice. What happens next will last forever. The Stanley Cup Final on ABC and ESPN Plus begins Saturday.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
The Two-Footed Podcast is brought to you by EPLindex.com and our presenting sponsor, Liberty Shield. Liberty Shield is a VPN provider. A virtual privacy network allows you to go online, change your location, access things you're geo-blocked from, while keeping your data safe. So, as an example, if you are a UK expat and want access to BBC iPlayer to watch Match of the Day, or ITV Hub, or all four, but you get that message that says this content is not available in your location, a Liberty Shield VPN gets you around that block, allows you to watch whatever you want on those services while also keeping your data safe. And it goes further than that. It allows you to open up Netflix's entire library by just changing your IP address. Liberty Shield is the #1 rated VPN provider on Trustpilot with 5-star ratings across the board. So go to libertyshield.com right now, use the code EPL25 and get either the hardware package or the software package. The hardware package is a router that you plug into your existing router, and any item you want to change the IP address on, be it your phone or your television, you connect that to the new Liberty Shield router. All other items can remain connected to your existing router. There's also a software package, which is instantly downloadable to your device, and you can get using straight away. Again, libertyshield.com, EPL25 for 25% off at checkout. We're also brought to you by Home of Hopcroft, a giftware and homeware company located in Scotland but shipping worldwide. Check out homeofhopcroft.co.uk and do check out the EPL Index and Anfield Index shops, which you'll find on Etsy. Use the codes EPL10 or RED10 for 10% off at checkout. And lastly, do remember to check out A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. That podcast is on this feed before every Premier League match week. And then the EPL Roundtable, hosted by Kevin DeVries, on its own EPL Roundtable feed. So just search EPL Roundtable in your podcast device. And that's out after every match week. Now, on with the show. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Monday. It is June the 10th, and I hope you're all well and had a pleasant weekend. We're going to get straight in. We're going to look at Euro 2024, which is rapidly approaching us. The squads have been finalised, and I thought today we'll go through some of the squads, take a look at some of the Premier League-based players that we are aware of in the squad, and then a couple more maybe that everybody should keep an eye on, or that could be big for this tournament. So we'll start in Group A, and we'll start with Germany. Group A has Germany, Scotland, Hungary, and Switzerland. The Germans have Pascal Gross of Brighton and Kai Havertz of Arsenal in their squad. Now, obviously, the two players everybody wants to see in this tournament from a German perspective. One is Florian Wirtz of Bayer Leverkusen, who's coming off an absolutely incredible season, and the other is Jamal Musiala of Bayern Munich. Those two represent the future of German football. Those are two very, very special talents. There are a couple of other players I think people should keep an eye on, though. Max Bayer of Hoffenheim is definitely one, and when we look at this German team, there's some talent in defence. There's obviously a lot of good midfielders. You have those two creative players. The question is, who's going to be the goal scorer? And A lot of people think Kai Havertz will start the tournament as the number 9. I think there's a strong chance of that. But I do think if they're to do well, Max Bayer is going to be key. So he's coming off a season where he scored 16 in 33 in the Bundesliga. He's only 21, doesn't turn 22 until October. Don't be surprised if he's linked to Premier League clubs this summer. I know he's already been linked to Liverpool. I can see others taking a look at him as well. He is a big, big talent and definitely one to keep your eye on. Dennis Undav is an interesting one, formerly owned by Brighton. Now, I think due to join Stuttgart permanently this summer, played a huge part in getting them into the Champions League with 18 goals in 30 games. He's another one that they might rely on for goals. And it's a huge step up for him. He's only been capped twice. He is 27. He's very, very much a late bloomer. But he just has a natural instinct in and around the penalty box. So if Havertz and Füllkrug, who I think are the ones people are relying on, don't click, Bayer and Undav are the two I could really see stepping up. And then I think Nico Schlotterbeck could really announce himself this summer if he's given the opportunity to be the starting centre-back. He is, for my money, undoubtedly the best defender in this squad. I think him and Rudiger is probably their best centre-back pairing, with Kimmich and Rom as the fullback. If they go with that, I think that's a very strong group. I think the Germans will do well. I think they will cause a bit of a stir. I don't think they're going to win it, but I think they might overperform what people's expectations are. And if they reach the semi-final, it wouldn't shock me at all. In the Scottish squad, obviously a lot of English-based players. You've got Angus Gunn, Andy Robertson, Scott McTominay, Grant Hanley, John McGinn, Che Adams, Ryan Christie, Billy Gilmore, Ryan Porteous, Liam Cooper, Stuart Armstrong, Tommy Conway, Ross McCrory, Kenny McLean. It's a lot of English-based players. And I think Scott McKenna, who played for Copenhagen in the back half of the season, he's still owned by Nottingham Forest, so he would count as well. What would concern me a little bit here is you do have one or two championship players that aren't necessarily even first choice at that championship level, and perhaps points to a Scottish squad that isn't the strongest this time around. But I think Tommy Conway is an interesting one to keep an eye on. Only 21 years of age, playing for Bristol, and coming off a pretty good season. In fact, back-to-back pretty good seasons. 10 and 39 this past year, 9 and 34 the season before. He could play all across the front line. He was Young Player of the Year, I think, both of the last 2 years for Bristol. And every time I've seen him play, he does just look like somebody that has Premier League calibre to his game. So he's one with that Scottish squad, I would say, to keep an eye on. And if we were to pick one more, it's going to be somebody a bit more experienced, somebody that's a bit more, a bit older. But I think Lawrence Shankland is going to be vital for them. I don't think there's enough goals in that squad. You look at Che Adams, 6 goals, James Forrest, 5 goals. John McGinn is their top scorer with 18, and Scott McTominay is second with 8. There's not enough goals there. So someone like a Lawrence Shankland, who, when he's playing for Hearts, he's never played in England. He has played in Scotland and had a year with Beerschot in Belgium. But he has scored goals pretty consistently in Scotland now. A lot of them are in the Championship. But the last 2 years with Hearts, he has been very, very prolific. And perhaps this is an opportunity for him to earn a big money move off the back of this tournament. The Hungarians, the obvious one is Szoboszlai. You've got Szoboszlai, you've got Milos Kerkez, you've got Callum Styles of Sunderland. They're the English-based players. And I think Kerkez and Szoboszlai are the two that most people will be most strongly aware of, and they'll be the ones people will be looking at. A player I quite like who has, I would say, stagnated in his career in the last couple of years is Attila Zalai, the centre-back. I think he's one that's just worth keeping an eye on. And I think Martin Derdai of Hertha Berlin is another one that has a chance to be a really good centre-back. He's only 22. I think he's got big potential. So I don't think he's going to start in this tournament, but he could play a role, and he could play quite an important role. Moving on. Last team then in Group A is the Swiss. And we've got Manuel Akanji, Fabian Schär, and Zeki Amdouni of Burnley as their English-based players. I think Amdouni's one to really keep an eye on. I think he's got something about him that just didn't click with Burnley last season. But I think if they can nail their managerial appointment, we could see quite a lot of him next season. I really like Leonidas Sterju, the centre-back. I think I've mentioned him a few times before. He's joining Stuttgart this summer, having spent the past season there on loan. Came through at St. Gallen. He's been quite highly rated since he was young. Now, he is small for centre-back. He's only 5'10", 5'11". But I think he's one that's got a real chance. What's crazy in the Swiss team is that Jan Sommer is the starting goalkeeper, and obviously he's just had a great season for Inter, so he deserves to be first choice based on his own form. But there's a strong argument to be made that he's not the best goalkeeper in that squad, because Gregor Kobel is there, and Gregor Kobel, I think if you're a club looking for top goalkeeper and he's not in your top 2 or 3 targets, you've absolutely missed the mark there. Noah Okafor is also one to keep an eye on, of AC Milan. Now, the move to Milan hasn't gone as well as was hoped, but he had some good standout moments this past season. He looked really promising when he was at Red Bull Salzburg. Just hasn't kicked on yet, but I do think he's one with a lot of talent that maybe people should just keep an eye on. On to Group B, and we start with Spain. David Raya, Rodri, and Marc Cucurella are your Premier League representatives. Look, the obvious name to keep an eye on here is Lamine Yamal, who's 16 years of age and is going to be a superstar if he avoids injuries. That is one of the most special young players you'll ever see. But a couple more. Alex Baena of Villarreal, who plays left side or as a 10. Really, really talented player. Like in that kind of typical Spanish attacking midfielder sort of mould. Really, really good player, and one that I definitely think is worth people keeping an eye on. Obviously, Nico Williams, a lot of people are familiar with him. Lightning quick. Good creator in terms of the chances he provides. He's not a creative passer, but his pace and his intelligence allow him to create a lot of chances for others. One player I had hoped might get a look in was Ohan Sanset, but he wasn't called up, unfortunately. Moving on to the Croats, we have Josko Gvardiol and Mateo Kovacic, the 2 Manchester City players, are the only Premier League representatives, any English football representatives. The name to watch here is Luka Sukic of Red Bull Salzburg. Really talented attacking midfielder. Unlikely to start for multiple reasons. Look at the midfield talent that's already in the squad. But I think he's one, if he gets an opportunity, could be dynamite for them. And Josip Stanisic is coming off a really impressive season on loan at Leverkusen from Bayern. My expectation is Leverkusen will try and keep him moving forward. But he's a player that can play in a bunch of positions and could become quite vital if there's injuries or the need to rest players. Already been capped 18 times. He's 24 now, so he's not a young player anymore, but I think he's going to be one that over the next couple of years is going to become quite a household name. Italy are also in this group, and we have Jorginho and Vicario of Tottenham. So 2 North London representatives here. I've seen a lot of people write the Italians off. I think that might be a little bit foolish. I think the big name to watch here is Calafiori. If he gets an opportunity, I think he is a genuinely special centre-back. But the big thing to watch is who partners Bastoni at the heart of that defence. Gianluca Mancini seems like the obvious answer, but I really do think Buongiorno of Torino should be the answer. He's come off a really good season with Torino, and I think if he's given the chance, his game should mesh better with Bastoni than Mancini's. I just think Mancini is a little bit below the level of an international starter for a club or for a nation like Italy. I don't know that Buongiorno's long-term the starter. I think Scalvini, obviously. I think long-term then we might see a back three of Scalvini, Calafiori and Bastoni. I think that's where the smart money would be. But I think Calafiori is just one that people should keep an eye on. And then Michael Folorunsho, if he gets opportunities in midfield, he's only had the one cap. He spent the past year out on loan at Hellas Verona. He's owned by Napoli. He's never played for them. He's had 6 different loans. The last 2 with Bari and Hellas Verona have been excellent. He's 26 now. He's quite a unique midfielder in terms of his size and skill set. But I do think he's one that if he gets a chance this summer, he'll earn himself a good move. Albania, Armando Broja and Thomas Strakosha of Brentford are the 2 English-based representatives. The 2 players I really like here. One is Aslani of Inter Milan. I think he has a chance to be a very, very, very good midfielder. He can do a little bit of everything. And at 22, he's still young enough that you can pretty much mold him into whatever you want him to be. But he's very, very good. I think Marash Kumbula, who has been at Roma for a bunch of years, just spent the past season on loan at Sassuolo, hasn't really gotten opportunities at Roma. I think he needs a move this summer, and I think he might earn it if he does well at this tournament. Moving into Group C then, we start with Slovenia. And for the first time, we have no English-based representatives. There's a couple of obvious names here. Josip Ilicic is one. Jan Oblak is another. And obviously Benjamin Sesko is the big one that everybody is sort of becoming aware of, especially with Premier League clubs showing interest. But there's a player called Zan Vipotnik who plays for Bordeaux that I managed to see twice this past year. And he does look like he might be a very interesting player and potentially the long-term partner for Sesko in their attack. So keep an eye on him if he gets opportunities. Moving on to Denmark, a lot of English-based players here. Joachim Andersen, Jannik Vestergaard, Matthias Jensen, Rasmus Højlund, Christian Eriksen, Matthias Jorgensen, Mikkel Damsgaard, Christian Norgard, Mads Hermansen, Pierre-Emil Højbjerg, Jakob Brun Larsen, and owned by Leicester but spent the past year at Bologna, Victor Christensen, the left-back, who I think is really, really good. And I think Leicester would be mental to sell him this summer. I think they should bring him back and making him their first-choice left-back. He's my one to watch here. I do think he's going to start at left-back for them, and I think he's someone that people will come away very, very impressed by. Outside of him, it's a bit of an older squad. Like, there's only 2 players under the age of 23. It's Christensen and Højlund. There's a lot of players over the age of 30. It's a squad that's been around for a long time. You've got a lot of heavily capped players. Kasper Schmeichel is 101, Simon Kjaer 132, Christian Eriksen 130, Thomas Delaney 78, Yusuf Poulsen 79, Pierre-Emil Højbjerg 77, and Andreas Christensen 69. It's a very experienced squad. They're going to be a tough out. They're always a tough out. They don't give up easy goals. They know each other very well. They play for each other and they grind. They grind and they grind. They try and wear teams down. if Alex Ba gets some opportunities at right back, he's a good player. He's a good player worth watching. He plays for Benfica. The Serbs then. So Dorde Petrovic of Chelsea and Sasa Lukic of Fulham are the English-based players here. Obviously, everybody is familiar with the likes of Nikola Milinkovic, who's been to Fiorentina and linked with the Premier League for years. Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, who was at Lazio and linked with the Premier League for years. Alex Mitrovic, who was at Fulham for a long time. There's quite a few well-known players in this squad. I think Petrovic, if he gets a chance, could do quite well. And I don't think he will, though. I don't think he should. I am a big fan of Predrag Rashkovic, the starting goalkeeper at Mallorca. I just wish he played for a bigger club because I think he'd get a lot more love. I think he's really, really good. But Dusan Vlahovic is one that I think this could be a breakout tournament for him. I think he's really good. I think Ivan Ilic is really, really good. And he's formerly of Manchester City, never got a ton of opportunity there. Can play left back, can play in midfield, can play pretty much anywhere you want him to play. Really, really good player. His brother Luca is also a professional. He's a little bit older. I don't believe he's not in the squad. He's another one that was at Man City and never quite made the grade and is now actually back playing with Red Star Belgrade or is moving back there. But Ivan Ilic is one to keep an eye on. He's been at Torino now for 18 months and he's done really, really well there. So keep an eye on Ivan Ilic. And I think the thing is everybody knows Vlahovic. Oh, and Strahinja Pavlovic is another one, the centre-back. He's a fairly monstrous presence there, so do keep an eye for him. Moving on, obviously, England, everybody bar Kane and Bellingham, and there's no point in talking too much about them. Everybody knows the England squad. I think Adam Wharton, though, is the one that if he gets an opportunity, really could establish himself. Like, he could come out of this tournament as a nailed-on starter for England. I think him and Rice with Bellingham ahead is the best midfield England could put on the pitch. Trent at right back, because that's where he belongs. Wharton and Rice, I think, could be really special in the middle of the pitch. Moving on then to Group D, Poland, you have Jan Bednarek of Southampton, Jakub Moder of Brighton and Hove Albion. You have Jakub Kivor of Arsenal, and that is our lot. Again, there's a lot of players that have been around a long time. People know Wojciech Szczesny, who's was at Arsenal for a long time now. Juve, Lewandowski's obviously the best known player. Zielinski's very well known at this point. I really like Sebastian Zeminski, who's at Fenerbahce. I think he's really talented. But the one to watch for me is Zalewski of Roma. Can play either side, can play as a wing-back or a full-back. Probably more naturally a wing-back, but he's fun. He's a fun player to watch. And he'd be my one to keep an eye on there. The Netherlands, you've got Verbruggen, Van Dijk, Aki, Cody Gakpo, Mickey van de Ven, Mark Flecken, and Ryan Gravenberch. Not quite sure why the last two are in the squad, considering they both had pretty poor seasons. Obviously, Sven Botman would have been in this squad, but he is injured. Jurien Timber would have been in this squad, but he missed the whole season as well, so that explains his absence. The ones to watch here, Verbruggen, they've been desperate for a top goalkeeper. He can become that. But Xavi Simons is the gem in this squad. He hasn't scored yet for the national team, but he is the player they've been desperate for a while now. And I think this could be his real announcement to the world that he is a special player. Austria. Only the one, Andreas Weimann, famous for the Weimann meter on the Villa podcast. He's been in England forever. Moved to Villa at 16, spent 07 to 2015 at Villa, had 2 loan spells at Watford, moved on to Derby, spent 3 years there, had a loan while there at Wolves. In 2018, he joined Bristol City. He spent 6 years there, played well over 200 games for them, and has moved to West Brom in January and will continue to be as ever reliable for them as he has been everywhere else. A really hard grafting, wide forward that I've always liked. So, yeah. In terms of players to watch, I think Nicholas Sievold is one. Defensive midfielder at RB Leipzig, was previously at Salzburg, and prior to that was at Liefering, came through the Salzburg Academy. He's very, very talented. But I think the one that there's 2 that might really catch people's eye. One is Christoph Baumgartner, who was at Hoffenheim, moved to Leipzig last summer, had a pretty decent first season there. He's really good. And the other one actually would class as a homegrown player for English squads. It's Kevin Danzo, who moved to England as a child. I think he was like 4 or 5, something like that. Was in the Reading Academy, and then his family moved to Milton Keynes. He went into the MK Dons Academy, and he was there until 16. Then he moved to Augsburg. He did well at Augsburg. Had a loan at Southampton. Never fully understood why he didn't get more opportunities, but it's by the by. Has joined Lens, been there 3 years now, and been absolutely excellent for them. Has really developed into a good centre-back. So Kevin Danzo is one to watch there. And then we have the French. You've got Saliba, Areola, and Kanate are your 3 English-based players. Everybody knows this squad. This is one of the best-known squads. But the 2 players that I just adore in this squad are the 2 young midfielders. One of them is Warren Zaire-Emery. Don't know that he'll get many opportunities, but personally I'd be starting him in midfield. And Eduardo Camavinga, who again everybody knows, but I think he's the most talented midfield player on the planet. I think he's incredible. I think no matter what you want him to do in midfield, he can do. Bradley Barcola is the other young player in the squad, the one that has a real chance to establish himself, because if Ousmane Dembele plays as poorly as he has this past season, then he shouldn't be in the squad, he shouldn't be in the team, and the obvious pick to come in instead of him would be Bradley Barcola. So him and Zaire Emery are the 2 that aren't as well known, but I think a lot of people have seen them in the Champions League. But this could be a real opportunity for them. But Camavinga, for me, if he's in the team, and he should be, because he's a lot better than Rabiot, him, Tchouaméni, and Zaire Emery, that's 24-year-old Tchouaméni, 21-year-old Camavinga, still only 21, and 18-year-old Zaire Emery. That midfield, to me, could just be the best on the planet for the next 4 or 5 years at international level. Into Group E, we start with Belgium. You've got Wout Faes, you've got Kevin De Bruyne, Yuri Tielemans, Leandro Trossard, Thomas Kaminski, Matt Sells, Timothy Castagne, Jeremy Doku, and Amadou Onana. Obviously, Romeo Lavia injured all season, which is why he's not in the squad. I would have some concerns about the goalkeeping situation, with Courtois choosing not to play, or simply being left out, having earlier made the decision, but he is back fit, and I wonder, was a conversation had? You've got a lot of very experienced players here, players that have been around a long time. Jan Vertonghen, 154 caps. Axel Witsel, 132. Romelu Lukaku, 115. KDB, 101. Yannick Carrasco, 74. Tielemans, 67. And Thomas Meunier, 66. It is an older squad, but there are still some big young talents in this squad, and I think everybody's now aware of Jeremy Doku. Everybody knows Amadou Onana. I really like Aster Ranks. He's had a rough couple of years, kind of had a falling out with Wolfsburg, and I'm not sure what happened, but he got shipped on loan to Milan, didn't really settle there. But the few games I saw him have for Wolfsburg this past season, quite impressed. Very, very physical midfielder. Very powerful. Johan Bakayoko, a lot of people have talked about. He's been linked with Premier League moves. But two to watch, Zeno de Bast, who is going to move to a big club or top club this summer from Anderlecht. He's really, really promising. And then Arthur Vermeeren, who joined Atletico Madrid in January. Just keep an eye on him. Very, very good controlling midfielder. Quite like Wharton. I don't think as talented as Wharton, but I think he's going to be a really good player. On to Slovakia. Your only two English-based players are the goalkeepers, Martin Dubravka of Newcastle and Marek Rodic of Fulham. It's a pretty, I would say, pretty weak squad overall. I think it does lack in high-end talent. Adam Obert, the centre-back from Cagliari, is really promising. So he'd be my one to keep an eye on. David Hango is a player I could see joining a mid-table Premier League club this summer. So maybe keep an eye for him as well. Romania next. We have Radu Dragozan of Tottenham. This is a squad that kind of reminds me of the squads you'd see in 94, when like you wouldn't know a whole lot of the players in a certain squad. There's a couple of really notable names here. Yanis Hadji, who's owned by Rangers, is on loan at the moment with Alaves in Spain. I mean, obviously, his father is the greatest Romanian player of all time and one of the best players of the last 40 years, Georgi Hadji. You've also got George Puskas, no relation, obviously, to Ferenc, but to have a Hadji and a Puskas in the squad is just funny. In terms of one to watch, this is the one I picked when I did this with Carol Matchett on Scouted. Florinel Coman, I would say, is one just to keep an eye on, but he's kind of stagnated a fair bit in recent years. Octavian Popescu, I was hoping, would be in the squad, largely because his surname is Popescu. He's not related to Jika, but he's a promising winger, but again has stagnated. The Ukraine, we have Mudryk, we have Zabarny, we have Michaelenko and Zinchenko. The one to watch here, without question, is Sudakov. This kid is very, very talented. Shakhtar Donetsk midfielder. Can do a bit of everything. I think if you got him to play in a box midfield and played him as the more recycling one, I think he'd be dynamite. Now, you could play him in a double pivot as the controller, but you'd need a very, very high-level defensive midfielder next to him, even though he's not bad defensively. But just to give him the freedom to not have to do a ton of defensive work, that'd be the role for him. The other name that kind of stands out here is Brasco. He's a natural defensive midfielder, plays for Dynamo Kiev. He's a pretty good ball winner, so yeah, maybe keep an eye for him. But Sudakov is the one. Like he might be the most talented player in that squad. Moving on then to our final group, which is Group F. We start with the Turks. You've got Yukuzlu, who's at West Brom. You've got Bayinder, who's at Manchester United. And you've got Agkun, who is at Leicester. That is our lot. So, there's some obvious ones to watch here, but the two that everybody should keep an eye on. Firstly, Kaplan, the centre-back, he's uncapped. If he gets a chance, he could be really good. But the two to really watch here are Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz. These two are very special. Very, very special. Güler's at Real Madrid already, and Yildiz plays for Juventus. They're big-time talents, like really, really big-time talents. So do keep an eye on the pair of them. For Georgia, we have a second nation. Oh, no, we have one. We have a player at Watford, Chekvetadze at Watford. So we still remain so far with only one country that didn't have anyone from that's based in England. The obvious name here is, of course, Kvicha Kvaratskhelia, seriously talented player. But Mamardashvili, the goalkeeper, for me, is the one to keep an eye on. Mikitadze of Metz, the forward, he's the other. Now, they're both older than Kvicha, which will tell you just how special Kvicha is. But keep an eye on both of them. And Divashvili of Bordeaux is another one. He plays on the wing as well. There's some talent in this squad. And while I don't think they're going to advance out of the group, I do think they might just throw up an upset. Like, they'll be favoured to finish bottom of the group, most likely. And I don't think they will. Moving on then to Portugal. We've got Nelson Semedo, Ruben Dias, Diogo Dalot, João Palhinha, Bruno Fernandes, Bernardo Silva, Jose Sá, Matheus Nunes, Diogo Jota, and Pedro Neto in the squad. Everybody knows these two players already, but João Neves and Antonio Silva, they're the ones to watch. They are huge, huge talents. Now, João Neves, before people start in, is not a defensive midfielder. So if your club wants a defensive midfielder, he's not the player to buy. What he would be perfect for is he'd be perfect for Chelsea in place of Enzo Fernandez. Him and Caicedo makes so much sense as a pairing, while Caicedo and Enzo doesn't. If Chelsea were clever, they'd find a way to move Enzo on and buy this fella. He doesn't make sense for United if the plan is to have Kobbie Mainoo starting. That as a pairing would be hilariously bad. Far too small, not forceful enough, not strong enough defensively. But with a Caicedo type next to him, it would be dynamite. He's very, very talented. But I think Antonio Silva is the one. If you were picking one player from this squad, it's him. He is as good a young defender as there is on the planet. He's so, so special. So definitely keep an eye on him. Also on Nuno Mendes, most people are aware of him, plays for PSG, was at Sporting under Amorim, part of the first Sporting title under Amorim, but he's excellent, so keep an eye on him. And then finally, the Czech Republic, which I believe might be the weakest squad in the competition. You've got Soufal and you've got Souček, the two West Ham boys, and that is it. That is the height of the English involvement here. And the player I think everybody should keep an eye on is Adam Hložek of Bayer Leverkusen. He's not really sparked at Leverkusen, but I think he is a very, very good player with a big, big future. So, Slovenia are the only country without a single player based in England, which is quite the selling point for the Premier League, that there's that many players in the Premier League and also in the Championship representing their clubs at this competition. So I'm going to go to break, and when I come back, we're going to look at Burnley. So you've that to look forward to. See you after this. Right, welcome back. So, Burnley Football Club, currently without a manager, having sold Vincent Kompany to Bayern Munich in what is, I think, one of the maddest appointments I've ever seen. Like, I understand he did really well to keep them up. He hadn't done particularly well with Anderlecht, and he took Burnley straight back down last year, this past season, despite spending a fortune and not really developing too many of the players there. So that's a bit strange for me, that you could fail up to that regard. But Bayern had gotten so desperate for manager, and then they lied to everybody that company had been on the radar for ages, because when you think about it, why did they go through 8 other targets if he was on the radar? You know? Anyway, so obviously at the end of 22-23, they're promoted as league winners in the championship. They come up, they spend a lot of money. Dara O'Shea for 7 million, Jordan Beyer for 13, Michael Obafemi for 3.5, Zeki Amdouni for 16, James Trafford for 15, Luka Kolyoshu for 2.6, Sander Berg for 12, Wilson Odebert I think was like 17, Hans Delacroix was I think in the region of 8 to 10, Aaron Ramsey was 14. A lot of money spent last summer. They also loaned in Jakob Brun-Larsen and Mike Tresor with an option to buy on him that was pretty sizable. He's a talented player, but didn't show a whole lot this past season. In January, they went out and they loaned in David Datro Fofana, Maxime Esteve, and Lorenz Assignon. Now, I note that they have decided to make the Mike Tresor deal a permanent one. They have decided to make the Maxime Esteve deal a permanent one. So even going down, they've committed likely significant enough fees on both. I think the Esteve option was about 13 million, 14 million. I'm pretty sure that the Tresor one was a bit higher than that. But they are two more very talented players to bring into the squad. And Mike Tresor's been capped a couple of times by Belgium, so they're clearly aware of his talent. Esteve, I really liked the look of. I really liked what he brought to that side. But all in all, the summer spending last summer didn't really work for them. They brought a lot of young players, a lot of wingers, attack-minded players. They did, of course, bring in a group in defence, but they didn't bring in that experienced lead centre-back that I felt they needed. And I still think they might need. Now, Dara O'Shea is 25. Beyer is 24. Those are pretty experienced players at this point, and maybe one of them takes on that leadership role moving forward. They've also done a deal for a Dutch right-back, as far as I can remember, that they signed in January. Now, whether or not that still goes through after they get relegated, we'll wait and see. They have not made the Assignon deal permanent, to my knowledge. And they said they were going to, but I don't think it's happened as yet. So we'll wait and see. Maybe he hasn't agreed to it, but I thought he did well. So when I look at the Burnley squad, I actually see a huge amount of potential for the future. I don't think they're going to need a ton this summer. I think you'd get away with bringing in maybe a left back. They did think that was a bit of a problem situation, but maybe Al Dakhil plays left back for them. He missed a chunk of this past season, but when I saw him play, I was impressed, and I did think he looked like somebody that could very easily play. Now, he's the right-footed one, it's not him, but he could definitely play for them frequently next season. He definitely has that talent. Delacroix is the one that can play left back. Wouldn't be as enthused by him from what I've seen, but at the Championship he should have absolutely no problems. But if they've got O'Shea, Beyer, Esteve and Al Dakhil as their centre-back groups, maybe you look to bring in a left-back and move Charlie Taylor on, maybe like a more traditional left-back, and then have Delacroix as kind of a defensive option there. At right-back, you've got Vitinho, who's shown he's a good player, and if you are keeping Assignon, he's another one that really did impress when he joined them last year. They'll still have Ekdal as well, who can be your fifth centre-back, but I don't think he's worth being much more than that. There looks like they're going to lose James Trafford. I believe Newcastle look like they might get that deal done. So you'll probably need to go and buy a new goalkeeper. I wouldn't be a big fan of Muir. I think he's more of a backup. But in the Championship, I'm sure he'll be absolutely fine. But I'd still be looking to bring in another goalkeeper into the mix. In midfield, Jack Cork, I think, leaves this summer. Brownhill is out of contract. I don't know if he's going to stay. Goodmanson, I think they've already said, is leaving. Sanderberg is a good player. Josh Cullen is a good player. Masinga is a very talented player if he could stay fit. And obviously you've got Aaron Ramsey. You can play in midfield or you can play wide. You definitely want to bring in one more in midfield. You'll definitely need to bring in one in midfield. A starter quality player in midfield. Ideally to partner Sanderberg. And then you've got Cullen and Masinga as your backups. I think that's a pretty strong group. But if Jack Cork sticks around, then you've got that experienced veteran. In attack, Jay Rodriguez is out of contract. Probably time to say goodbye to him. You'd be looking to move Nathan Redmond on. Manuel Benson, I think you'd look to move on. Lyle Foster's only 23. I would expect a lot more from him next season. Amdouni's 23. I expect a lot more from him. You've got Kolyoshu, Trezor, and Odebear, all wingers with lots of talent. Lots and lots of talent that you can heavily lean into. Will they look to keep Brun Larson? Maybe. Maybe they'll look to keep Brun Larson. Will he accept that move? I genuinely don't know. Actually, sorry, I'm just looking now. Jack Cork is set to leave the club with Goodmanson. They've made contract offers to Jay Rodriguez and Charlie Taylor. They've extended the deals of Brownhill and Bailey Peacock Farrell. They had options in their contract to extend them. Trezor and Esteve, they've been made permanent. Datro Fofana is gone. And they're trying to get the Assignon and Brun Larson deals turned into permanent deals. They've also got Anas Saruri coming back off a loan. He's another talented player that could definitely make a difference for them. Luke McNally, he's another good centre-back, actually. Michael Obafemi, I mean, he was on loan. I'd be probably looking to move him on. I wouldn't be the biggest fan of his game. They've got Darko Churlinov as well, who's another winger. He was out on loan last season at Schalke. Didn't have a great time. But maybe he's someone that could come in. Like, that's a very talented group. With Datro Fofana leaving, I'd be moving on Redmond. I wouldn't be bringing back Obafemi. I'd look to bring in one up top. Maybe you just try and convince Weghorst to play, just to stay and play. Maybe you don't want to. But there's a lot of talent at this squad. Like, a lot of talent. And personally, I would say buy a left back, buy one in midfield, unless you think Samuel Bastian is the guy for you. I know he did well in the Championship, but clearly he was deciding he wasn't good enough for the Premier League level. Didn't have a great loan in Turkey, so I'm guessing you don't feel he's good enough. Maybe Bailey Peacock Farrell just comes back in and Muric is the starting goalkeeper and he's the backup. Maybe that's how you play it. But a left back, for sure. A midfielder, for sure. I mean, they're going down. They've already spent money to keep those two. Maybe you just keep Obafemi. Maybe just go with Lyle Foster and Obafemi as your two forward players, and that's what you do. But I can't see how that isn't a really appealing job. Like, that's a really appealing job with lots and lots of talent at the disposal of whoever takes over. And I know it was a bad season in the Premier League, but you keep most of that group together, bring them down, have them get battle tested for a year in the Championship. I don't think many of them will be looking to push their way out. The fact that Esteve and others are signing on for a Championship side is a really good sign. Bayer was there in the Championship with you before, admittedly on loan, but he was there. Darrell O'Shea has played in the Championship for a couple of years. That's a really talented squad. Sander Berge, I think, will stay. There's nobody really that, other than Trafford, I think that might just be a job of cashing in. There's nobody that you're going to be forced to sell, I don't think. So that's a really, really, really tempting job. Now, the unfortunate thing, actually, just to wrap up their season, obviously they did finish second from bottom. They only scored 41 goals. Foster missed a ton of time and Andoni didn't click. Plus the injuries to Koleosho and others. And company just not getting it right for months and months and months. Defensively, they conceded 78. It's the best of the three teams that had come up and gone down, but it's still not nearly good enough. It was the issue at the back was there was no organisation and leadership, which I think is a massive hammer on a manager that was a centre-back for his entire career. Well, played defensive midfield when he was young, but for the majority of his career. They only won, 5 games all season. They beat Luton away, beat Sheffield United home, beat Fulham away, beat Brentford home, and beat Sheffield United away. The best result is that Fulham away win. They got draws away to Forest, away to Brighton, that's a good result. Home to Luton, home to Fulham, away to West Ham, it's a good result. Away to Chelsea is a good result. Home to Wolves, decent result. Home to Brighton, 2 draws at Brighton, and a draw away at Old Trafford. It's, again, a good result. They did get some good results, but just far too poor for far too many games, especially at the start of the season. Like, when you get to the start of December and you've only taken 4 points, you're gone. Like, you're done and dusted at that point. They went out of the FA Cup in the 3rd round, away to Spurs, though, so no embarrassment there. And then in the League Cup, they got to the 5th round. They knocked out Forest. They beat Salford fairly heavily, but then they lost away to Everton. Again, who are a better team than them. So, just nothing stand out from a good point of view, but I do think a lot of valuable lessons learned. I do think they'll be disappointed in what company's done, though. I really do. I just think if you're a young manager looking for a really good opportunity, that's it. Like, that is, you're not going to find a more talented group of players in the Championship. They to me should be the strong favourites to walk the Championship. I think they're better than Leeds. I think they should walk the Championship this year with the right manager. Next Burnley manager odds. Let's see. Check in with our friends at Skybet and see what they're telling us. Frank Lampard is currently odds on to become the new manager of Burnley. Remove any and all hope of promotion. Ruud van Nistelrooy is 2nd, Craig Bellamy 3rd. These are not inspiring choices. Carlos Corberan, I think, would be a brilliant get. Can you convince him to leave when he's doing really good work at West Brom, who, are a bigger club, but there's a lot more talent there. Marty Cifuentes of QPR is next. I mean, he's had less than a season there. He did well. He did well to keep them up. Scott Parker, horrible. Thierry Henry, horrible. Alan Pardew, horrible. Graham Potter is unrealistic. Raphael Vicky at Young Boys, he's interesting. He could be interesting. Didn't do too well with Chicago Fire, but he did a really good job with Basel. And then he did a pretty good job. He's done a pretty good job with Young Boys, including winning a League and Cup double in the 22-23 season. So actually, they won the league this year as well, didn't they? Yeah, so back-to-back titles. So he's done more than a pretty good job. He's done a really good job. So maybe he's a good option for them. Now, he is 28-1, but those short odds options, Lampard, Van Nistelrooy, Bellamy, they're horrible. Absolutely horrible. Scott Parker is the worst of the lot, though. That's a shocker. I have to go to break now. I'm not upset by Scott Parker being an option. But for Burnley fans, I do think there's a lot to be positive about moving forward towards next season. Back after this. Right, welcome back. So, 3 scumbags have been sentenced to 8 months in prison for racially abusing Vinicius at a game in May of 2023. They were found guilty of a crime against moral integrity, and they are the first people to be convicted for racism at a football match. And this is progress. This is very, very good progress. And hopefully they have a horrible time while they're in there. Real Madrid have confirmed that they will take part in next year's Club World Cup. They initially had said they were not going to take part. I think this was their stance because of the Super League stuff. But now it appears like they will be one of the 12 teams who will take part at the World Cup, Club World Cup next summer. A consortium, including a Saudi royal family member, have allegedly made a £400 million offer to buy Everton. Well, to buy 94% of Everton. There's an awful lot of debt that comes with Everton, including 158 million to MSP Sports. I think over 200 million to 777 Partners, who themselves are staring at the possibility of bankruptcy, and there's another 100 or 150 million owed to somebody else as well. So we'll see what happens with that. But Everton fans shouldn't get too carried away just because of the mention of somebody in the Saudi royal family. Let's not forget the Saudi royal family is absolutely enormous, and it might not be somebody with the type of money that you would hope would be part of it. Let's not forget that, for example, Sheffield United are owned by somebody who's a member of the Saudi royal family, and, well, he hasn't exactly burned through money, has he? Will Still has been named the new boss of French side Lens. He left Reims last month after a run of poor form, was expected to join Sunderland, but apparently couldn't agree to terms there. So he has decided to take the job at Lens. Frank Heiss, who had done a really good job there, he has moved on, and he has taken the Nice job. Nice obviously lost their manager to Ajax in one of the stranger decisions anyone has made. Francesco Farioli deciding to leave Nice after just one season and move on. I wonder if that's kind of a commentary on the ownership. We'll do the gossip and we'll be done for the day. Crystal Palace and Eberechi Eze has a release. Crystal Palace and England forward Eberechi Eze has a release clause in his contract worth a minimum of 60 million, with Tottenham among the clubs interested. I believe that release clause, like the one for Michael Olise, is only for Champions League teams. Aston Villa must raise 60 million in player sales this summer to avoid a breach of profit and sustainability rules. Bruno Guimaraes says he's very happy at Newcastle amid interest from Manchester City and Arsenal. He's not going to say otherwise, is he? Frank Lampard has turned down job offers but wants to return to management. Who's offering him jobs? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could be set to become the new Leicester manager. No, he won't. Bayern Munich have reopened talks to sign João Palhinha and are willing to spend up to 45 million euros, which is 38 million pounds, to sign the Portuguese midfielder. Newcastle are considering selling Yankuba Minta after an impressive loan at Feyenoord, with Liverpool having expressed an interest. Obviously, Arne Slot managed him at Feyenoord, which is probably where that link has come from. Scotland and Arsenal left-back Kieran Tierney would love to return to Celtic, and the Gunners are set to listen to offers for him this summer. Celtic don't have the money to buy him back. Manchester City have identified Adam Wharton as a long-term target, but are not expected to make... That's just lazy journalism. Every top club has identified him as a long-term target. That's just silly. Wolves are trying to sign Rodrigo Gomes from Braga. He's a 20-year-old winger, but face competition from Atletico Madrid. Discussions between Mainz and Liverpool have begun over a permanent deal for Sepp Vandenberg. Liverpool could be set to lose Quentin Kelleher this summer, with the 25-year-old wanted by both Celtic and Brentford. Celtic don't have the money. Brentford will be a good one. Liverpool are weighing up a deal to sign Alan Varela. You have no idea how much I want that to be true. Tottenham and Bayern Munich are both interested in Stuttgart's 26-year-old German winger, Chris Führig. He's a good player. Not sure he's that level, but he's a good player. Napoli have made an offer worth 13 million plus 2.5 in bonuses for Romelu Lukaku, who Chelsea think they're getting 35 million for. Real Sociedad have opened talks to sign Sergio Gomez from Manchester City. Be a good move for him. He's not going to get games at City, so might as well. Celtic are interested in signing Chris Meffam, but Bournemouth want 8 million for the player. That doesn't surprise me that Celtic would want him because Rodgers tried to sign him for Leicester, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. Borussia Dortmund are considering a summer move for Jake O'Brien, while Everton and AC Milan are also interested. He proved me wrong this season. Wasn't impressed to start the season. By the end of the season, he was playing really, really well. Not sure of the AC Milan stuff, but Everton, yeah, it would make sense. Bernardo Silva is trying to convince João Neves to join him at the Premier League champions instead of moving to Manchester United. Him and Rodri could be really good. Yeah, him and Rodri could be really good. If they decide not to go the Guimaraes route, that one could make a lot of sense. Ipswich, Norwich and Celtic are all interested in signing Scotland under-17 forward Aidan McGinley, who plays for Queen's Park. One of the richest families in the world is backing the bid to buy Everton. That's the Dell family. That's not the same bid as the one with the Saudi royal family member. Manchester United minority owner Ineos is looking to sell Nice. Yeah, well, that's been expected. Newcastle have offered Burnley 16 million for James Trafford, but the Clarets want 20 million. Yeah, I'd hold out for, if not a bit more. Manchester United expect to complete a deal for Jared Brandwaite before June the 30th, after he was cut from the England squad. They will need to up their bid significantly, or up their valuation significantly. United are set to make a second bid for João Neves. They haven't made a first one, so that's garbage. Man City want to keep Julian Alvarez and will not accept loan offers. Atletico Madrid have been linked with Alvarez, but their president does not believe he wants to leave the Etihad. Phil Foden is set to sign a new contract to become the highest paid British player ever. I'd be surprised if it was higher than what Jude's earning at Real. Leicester City have made contact with Brighton and Chelsea boss. That's the job I've been saying I think is perfect for him. Former Brighton and Chelsea boss Graham Potter said from day one that's who I'd go for if I was them. Juventus could offer Weston McKennie in a swap deal for Douglas Luiz. No. Arsenal are also interested in Luiz. We know that. That's been around a while. Dominic Solanke's available for 65 million this summer, and Arsenal is one of the clubs interested. He's not available. He just has a buyout clause. Bayern Munich have made a fresh approach to Fulham for João Palhinha. Fenerbahce have entered the race to sign Mason Greenwood. Celtic will consider selling Kyogo this summer and want at least 25 million for the 29-year-old. They won't get that. Tanguy Ndombele is set to leave Tottenham as a free agent this summer. 27 years of age, still had a year left in his contract. That is an absolute stinker of a transfer for Tottenham. A super talented player, but my God, it hasn't worked at all. 55 million they paid for him. He had an okay loan at Napoli and won a league title. Then he went to Galatasaray. Wasn't great, but he's won another league title there. So he's probably happy enough with how things have gone. Lugan House, Eric Ten Hag should not be sacked. Amadou Onana says he would like to play for an international world club. Okay. And Marco Silva could become a target for Nottingham Forest if Nuno leaves the City Ground. There's already rumours that Nuno is not going to stay at Forest beyond the summer. He was basically just a panic appointment. Right, on to our final day. Everton are in talks to sign Armando Broja in a £30 million deal. And that's from Ben Jacobs, who is a spoofer, so likely to be lies. Wolves have agreed a deal to sign Rodrigo Gomes from Braga, so that's positive for Wolves. Arsenal are told they will have to spend 50 million to sign Douglas Luiz. It'll be a lot more than that. Man City are set to make Phil Foden the highest paid English player by raising his salary to 375 grand. Like I said, it's less than what Jude earns. Arsenal and Manchester United remain interested in Josh Zirkzee, who is also wanted by AC Milan. I think Milan is the best move for him. I think he fits perfectly there with Rafael Leao. Bayern Munich have made an offer of about 30 million for João Palhinha. Jens Lehmann says he's unsure about whether Mikel Arteta is the right man to lead the club. Rob McElhenney has not given up hope of signing Gareth Bale for Wrexham. Now, Bale's had a year off. I'd love to see him go to Wrexham and play. They're in League One now, so they've, it's a decent enough level. I'd love to see that. I think that'd be incredible. The Welsh club are also in talks with Arthur Nkonkwo over a permanent deal after his release by Arsenal. He's a talented goalkeeper that a few years ago a lot of people were quite high on. He spent last year with Wrexham, did very well, key to their promotion. Previously had loans at Crewe, where he did very well, and at Sturm Graz, I have no idea how he did there. Saudi Pro League side Al Nazir in talks to sign Wojciech Szczesny from Juventus. Newcastle want to sign another striker this summer, okay. And Xavi would like to manage in the Premier League, having left Barcelona. But he better hurry because the jobs are filling up quickly. Right, folks, that's me for today. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.